Hello, my name is Dr. Cóilín ÓBraonáin. I'm speaking on behalf of PCI College. I'm going to talk a little bit about existentialism and how that might help make sense of the COVID-19 emergency, and also, in fact, how we might make some good use out of the emergency. So what is existentialism, first of all? Well, existentialism suggests that there is no built-in meaning or purpose to life, that we're just born into the world, which is kind of neutral, it's neither good nor bad, but there's no particular reason why we're here, and once we arrive here then we have to make our own meaning. So existentialism is a liberating philosophy which says that you're completely in charge of your own destiny, your own life, and you get to decide what you become and who you become in this world. I'm going to talk specifically about Irvin Yalom's 4 ultimate concerns. So what are ultimate concerns? Well, these are issues, basic facts of life which we all have to face and which are typically difficult for us to look at. And what are they? Well, the first one is death, then we have freedom, we have isolation, and we have meaninglessness. So we'll take those each one at a time and relate them to the C19 situation. Death. So existentialism suggests that we actually focus on and look at death, our own deaths, and not death in a general way or in an abstract way. This is one of the problems, one of the concerns with life, because we're one of the few creatures, if perhaps the only creature, who knows that we're going to die. From an early age, we know that one day we're going to die, and obviously, generally speaking, that's very unwelcome. So how do we deal with it? Typically, we usually deal with it by not thinking about it at all and avoiding it if possible. So you won't find death coming up as a topic of conversation around the dinner table, most likely. However, it is a fact. But why would focusing on or thinking about death, why would that be helpful? Well, the reason is that we're actually here for a very short space of time. And we can waste a lot of that time. We can let it just flitter away through not fully engaging with life. So the idea is that looking at our own mortality will actually make us fully appreciate life and live life to the fullest. So if you haven't been doing that, looking at mortality may be a motivation for getting out there and giving it 100%. Freedom, the next ultimate concern. What's that about? Freedom, we tend to think of freedom as being a good thing, something we welcome. So how could that be a concern or a problem? Well, usually when we think of freedom, we're really thinking of liberty. We're thinking of our rights, our constitutional rights, be it the freedom to congregate where we want, freedom of speech and so on. But these are really liberties. True freedom is the necessity, the ability and the necessity to make choices in life. So in actual fact, in going through life, every so often we have to make a significant choice. We make choices around college courses, we make choices around partners, around careers, and other important choices. And each time we do that, we have to forgo a lot of other possible options. You can think of this as walking down a road and you come to a fork in the road, so you have to either veer right or veer left. Both options look reasonably good. There's nothing wrong with right or left, but obviously once you take one fork, you cannot also take the other fork. So we have to do that in life. We have to make choices, and it's our choices that make life meaningful. So that's why we refer to this as freedom. So it is very important, it's very useful to have choices. But with freedom comes responsibility. Once we make a choice, then we have to stick with it, at least in the short term, and we have to live with the consequences. Responsibility we're not so keen on. This type of responsibility can be a little burdensome. But again, to live a life, an authentic life, to live life fully, we need to make these choices and take that responsibility. COVID-19, again, gives us an opportunity to look at this and to see, am I really living my life the way I would like to, the way I wanted to, or have I fallen into a kind of comfortable life that's okay but not really fulfilling? If it's not really fulfilling, this might be a good time to reevaluate what you're doing with the rest of your life. That brings us to the third ultimate concern, and that is isolation. Existentialists would say that we're all kind of separate in the world. Once we separate out from parents, we're kind of on our own. And this isolation, this separateness is something unpleasant as well. We tend to try and overcome isolation through relationships, through social circles and so on. But ultimately, we're all on our own. During the COVID-19 lockdown, some of us, we are actually literally on our own because we may live alone, we may be elderly, so our social activities may be greatly curtailed. And this may indeed bring up the whole topic of isolation, whether we like it or not. However, isolation is just one of those facts of life, and coming to terms with it allows us to move on and to, again, fully enjoy life in spite of isolation. That brings us to meaninglessness. So the central problem of living, according to existentialists, is that there is no actual meaning in life or purpose laid out for us. We tend to feel that there is. We're born into a certain culture, a certain language group, a certain part of the world, and we tend to grow up feeling that we're a part of it and that life is inherently meaningful, that there is meaning there built into life. Existentialists say no, that's not actually the case, that it's up to all of us individually to create our own meaning, and in that way we can create our own destiny. So by grasping the freedom and taking responsibility for choices, we can shape our own lives the way we want them to be. And we don't have to live the life that other people think we should or other people prefer. So having to find our own meaning, having to create our own meaning, while it can be daunting in some ways, is also highly liberating. COVID-19 is a good time to sit back and think about this as well. What is the meaning in your life? What's important in your life? What are the core values in your life? And are they actually really yours, or were they just handed down to you like second-hand clothes? Maybe you're quite happy with those meanings, those values, and maybe you don't want to change them. But it's a good idea to take a look and to weigh up consciously whether or not this is the kind of life you want to live. So these are the kind of issues that existentialists look at. And they're quite fundamental to life, and they're quite important. And COVID-19 may indeed be throwing up these issues in some form or another. You will find some newspaper articles looking at meaning during these circumstances. But this meaning is much more about what do I do with myself, how do I put in the time. This meaning from an existential point of view is central and is the very core of life. So this is Dr. Cóilín ÓBraonáin for PCI signing out. Thank you for listening.